In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Fortunately for us, most moral choices that we make or have to make in life are easily made and are literally black and white, or the difference between light and darkness. Fortunately, on a daily basis, a weekly basis, these choices, well, they're easily made in the sense that we can distinguish what is right from wrong. For instance, you're here every Sunday because we know the commandment of God means, as the church teaches, that God is to be worshiped in the sacrifice of the Mass on every Sunday and holy day of obligation. That's not a matter that we have to ponder. However, there are times when we might struggle with that decision. What if I'm sick? Well, the church and God are reasonable, and they'll say, well, if you're sick, you don't have to attend. But then, well, how sick do I have to be? Do I have to be in my deathbed? Or what if I'm not feeling terrible, but I have something that's terribly contagious? Do I just go there flippantly and get other people sick? So sometimes moral choices, because we have to apply certain prudence or application, requires us individually in conscience to have to make that decision. And it's not a decision that, at least when we're adults, somebody else can necessarily make for us. Like, how sick do I have to be? One person might in good conscience decide, I'm sick enough or contagious enough that I simply am dispensed today. Another will think, no, at that same degree of sickness or being a contagion, I'm still going. And we would perhaps make the right decision, but if we stand in judgment of another, well, I would have gone to church if I could still crawl, no matter what. Now you might sin by judging another's conscience who tried to make a good conscious decision. So sometimes moral decisions are not easily done. That's true with regards to elections and voting. And I am going to address this from the moral perspective. We would say, for instance, that the virtue of patriotism, which the church recognizes as a virtue, would ordinarily require, or at least urge us that in a democracy or republic, given the right to vote, we would exercise that for the common good. Falls under patriotism and that virtue. Fine and good. But what if it's not truly a free election? What if you live in a banana republic, where in the past Fidel Castro, you handed him your vote and he looked at it and said, thank you, and if you voted wrong, well, you know what I mean. Or what if you're in communist China? Or what if you're in the United States? Many people believe that we have had such fraud as to constitute stolen elections. Many, many people believe that. Are you still under some obligation of virtue to participate in that fraud, even though you're not committing fraud yourself? That's a gray area. And if you decide, well, I'm going to do my right and exercise it properly, good. But if you, in conscience, come to the belief that, no, I'm perpetuating a fraud by showing up and doing this, then you will have to follow your conscience. But shame on the one who would shame the other when morally one could choose one or the other, and morally you must choose according to your conscience. So this is all presuming you're a faithful Catholic, which you are, and you're trying to do the right thing. And your right thing may not be what the right thing is that someone else does. So be it. As St. Thomas More notably said, "I will not judge the conscience of others. I will judge my own, and God judges mine, and God judges others." All right, let's continue with the whole election thing. If you're in an election with two good candidates that are both suitable in every important way, that a Catholics can in general vote for either one, or if there are more than two, but two viable, so be it. What if one represents evil, intrinsic evil, in a platform, and the other represents good? Morally, you should vote for the good one. That's what the Church would say. Now we get to the situation, and this is why it's so complicated. What if, and we're talking about viable electable candidates. I know you can write in names. Don't write my name in. Write the name of your enemy in if you want to punish someone by putting them into politics. But I'm talking about electable candidates, that is, those who could actually win, practically speaking, which is often down to two individuals. What if both are evil, equally so? Then you vote for neither. Then you do write in your name or the name of your enemy, but you don't vote for two equally evil. What do you do if one is more evil in what that person represents than the platform of another? This again is now where we are going to get into differences of moral judgment based on the conscience, the good conscience of faithful Catholics. If I were to tell you, you have to vote for the so-called lesser evil, I would be overstepping what Catholic morality would say. If I told you you cannot vote for the so-called lesser of evil in good conscience, I would be overstepping what I can say according to moral theological principles. What I can say and will say is this, and I'm presuming, and I see, you are all devout, faithful Catholics. You are trying to do the right thing in your lives. All of us are sinners and fail in personal ways, but in matters like this, unlike many outside the Church, you literally are trying to make the decision in accord with what God would want you to do. Fine. Some of you are going to do one thing and some are going to do another, and you can be both right before God. And we best not sit in judgment either of another who is just as you, and I'm saying this about myself, trying to follow good conscience and do the right thing in a morally muddled, complicated case. The thing is, and I don't like using the word choosing lesser of two evils, because we can never directly choose evil at all. For those who would vote for an unworthy candidate who is less unworthy than another, for a good reason, a person can, in good conscience, vote for that, so long as that person who's voting intends the good, such as restraining the evil of the other, or impeding or stopping it, or stopping some other terrible evil that's proportionate, In such a case, one can, by Catholic moral principle, cast such a vote. Am I going to say you have to? No, that is not my place. Am I going to say that you cannot? No, that is not my place. You will have to decide. And sometimes moral decisions are hard because we're in a fallen condition. And it's often more complicated than simply mathematically adding up, okay, what's the score of this evil versus the score of that? It's not even quite so simple as arithmetic. I will say this, and I have my own intention. I do intend to vote. I'm not going to announce for whom, but I've already done this. I've already expressed myself to a candidate for whom I likely will vote. I have expressed myself as best I could the fact that if I vote for you, you must be aware that I absolutely oppose this or this or this of what you stand for. But because I believe that you represent a force that will restrain a greater evil, I'm considering you as a candidate. I would recommend doing that even if you don't plan to vote for a particular candidate that you think might be somehow persuaded to the good. I wouldn't bother doing that with a totally evil person. And they are out there. They are out there who are so steeped in evil in their hearts and for what they stand that they're not even on the radar as somebody that anybody should vote for. But if you are, even at this stage, still unsure, if you have access to the web or you have access to a forever postage stamp, you can write a letter, or in under 5 minutes, you can express yourself by electronic means to whatever candidate or candidates you either are considering, or you've ruled out, or you're going to go with without enthusiasm, and express yourself. And I do suggest doing that, especially if you find yourself voting for someone who would ordinarily maybe be unworthy in your mind, but is the so-called lesser of two evils. So my last statement on this is, it is a hard decision. It has become harder every election. It is a decision that you will have to make in accord with your conscience and not someone else's. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.